Yeah, and there are so many distractions, and there are also, yeah, a lot of social incentives to do other things, that can raise your status. You can, especially if you're intelligent and you have verbal ability, you can use it politically. I don't mean officially, but of course, officially, obviously. But yeah, you can shift people's minds and attention to off of maybe what's best and natural towards something that you're a goal that you have, that
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I thought you were
no,
gonna
no,
keep
you're
going.
not.
Um, yeah, because it's like that, and if you're doing that, then you're not directly experiencing the reality that's resulting for this other person because of your behavior. And I think we all do that to a certain degree. Um, Anytime we get in a fight with someone that we care about, anytime, we get angry at somebody that we care about, like there's a moment of ignorance or a moment of blindness there, but to do so willingly for your own benefit, if you know that's what you're doing, I feel like that's pretty fucked up. That's where a lot of the corrupting influences come from, sort of this lack of lack of the realization that it benefits you if other people are happy. If other people are living a good life, it's beneficial for you in the very least. I mean, I don't want to paint this as like, well, you just have to give everything up and be a martyr and take on all the cares of the world and never care about yourself. That's a false equivalency, I think. But if you don't care about yourself, you're in trouble. And if you don't care about other people, you're in trouble. But when you manage to take all of that into account, the way that nature naturally does, with trees that grow and then maybe they fall over, but then another tree grows on top of them, and the apple tree outside of my window grows a lot of apples, and the apples fall on the ground and they sit there because nobody really cleans them up. And then the deer come in the winter and they have some sugar, they have some calories that they can come and eat. Maybe even get drunk off if the apples have been there long enough and like have a
Mm.
good experience. But that just happens. Like nobody plans that. Nobody like forces that into existence. And I think we can remember we can remember that ourself if we're paying attention to other people in our place and how we relate and how they're thriving and how we're thriving and like actually bothering to care whether everybody's doing well. We need a lot more of that, I think, in the world these days. And we're all kept so isolated. We forget that when other people do well, we do well too, if we're doing it right.
Yeah. Yeah, that is hard. I mean, so maybe a lot of it's, communicating through electronic devices and you're only getting words and images. Maybe there's something about being there in person. And also, you went outside your house, you got fresh air at least a little bit to where you're a little more natural, a little more relaxed, and your body's functioning a little more as it should. And then maybe you're a little more compassionate and empathetic.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that would sort of be the natural conclusion from Rousseau's theory. If we are sort of if nature is sort of inherently good and we are inherently good through nature, then when we connect back into nature, it can kind of refresh our own sense of that. But if we don't bother, then we can very easily get confused.
Yeah. Yeah, and there are, and people would yeah, there are people that are willing to confuse us to get our minds get our minds on other things.
Yeah. Yeah. I can see there being a critique against the way Rousseau has worded it that he would have Emile focus on beauty of like, oh, you just want him being sort of, oh, we don't even have stories for it in our culture anymore, I guess, but just being sort of like very very like elitist, like, oh, I only listen to the best music and I only have the best art around me. And if I'm not in a highly refined atmosphere, I can't take it. Oh, it's too much for me. And clearly he's not saying that, but I could see that being that critique leveled against him. And I wonder how we can, you know, how we might differentiate between what he's saying and what the critique might, sort of straw man him out to be saying.
Mm. I mean, I guess in the book, the education in general is with nature. So a lot of the beauty that he's exposed to is very simple. It's not refined. It's
Hmm.
literally drawing his environment, drawing people. So yeah, so it's a lot of that is not refined. Um, yeah, yeah. I guess that's probably enough. I mean, he's not. Yeah, he's not very elitist or anything. When he talks about music, he's not teaching him to play really complex things. It's more like he just says it should be natural, it should be play, it should be um it's a physical thing. He talks about preferring certain instruments over others because of how dexterous it makes the fingers or something like that, and it doesn't make them too tough or something. Yeah, it's just very basic, like the way he talks about it. And it should always be play, and the reason for it to be play is part of his bigger theme of it's always he never goes against the child's natural inclinations. Now, of course, in the wrong environment with the wrong influences, or maybe with the wrong mind, I don't know, you could critique it that way. But Emile's influences may, Emile's inclinations might go towards the bad. But according to Rousseau, with his theory, and maybe it's idealistic, his inclinations with the right education will never go wrong.
Hmm. Hmm. That's interesting. Yeah, because that does feel a little idealistic,
Mm,
um, but also like I think I would agree with that as a like if you're talking about it in as a in a pragmatic way, like in a useful way. So like if you are educating a kid or if you're looking at your own education, if you notice places where something's not working, and then if you use this description, this philosophy as a tool, as far as like, okay, well, what was corrupted here? In what way did I go against what seemed natural or what seemed, sort of more harmonious? You can kind of you can probably can kind of start to clear that corruption away and sort of return to something if you have that perspective to approach it with. So
mm,
um, that makes a lot more sense to me than it being like you only get to be harmonic if you have if your guardians when you were growing up or your parents or whoever managed to keep everything perfectly away from you so you could just be yourself like that that feels one, I don't think that's what he's saying. I'm making that, I'm using that as a rhetorical device.
mm.
But that also just doesn't seem possible. Like that's setting yourself up for failure because you can't. Everybody's going to make mistakes, and I'm sure there's room for that in there. But as a philosophy, like it's more useful pragmatically than it is as an ideal.
Yeah.